Hello again. Welcome to ManchTalk. I'm Tammy Simmons.
And I'm Carla Garrick.
And here we are in the last show of September already. Like, October's in a couple days.
I know.
By the time you guys are watching this on TV, it's October. I do not know.
Although it has been the mildest September ever, I actually put on a little shirt because I was like, it's the end of September and I'm hot.
Well, we went through that, I don't know if that was last week, the week before, it's all a big blur. But I mean, it was chilly and cold and we had the heat coming on and stuff. And then all of a sudden we had to turn the air conditioner on. I mean, because I'm fussy and we had the air conditioner on the house yesterday. It was too warm. It was just too warm. It was clammy. Ugh, I don't like it. I love the weather. I just don't like the house being.
Tammy does not like clammy.
I don't like sticky icky. So yeah, I'm okay with that.
I got some crazy hair here today.
Yeah, my hair is a mess. Everything.
This is on purpose, folks, just so you know.
I do enjoy the warmer weather. I hope that we have a nice mild October. I hope it doesn't rain all the time. I mean, we need the rain. I think it's going to rain tomorrow. There's a chance of rain. There's a chance of rain on Friday afternoon. So much for sine waves on Friday afternoon if it's going to rain, which is all fine and dandy. But I hope we don't get one of those rainy, soggy late Octobers. I hate that weather. When the leaves are all on the ground and everything gets all wet and it's slippery
the colors are beautiful. I'm going to be filming a campaign ad. Sweet. And I was over at Livingston yesterday and I was walking around the pond at Doors Pond and I was like, oh, I think I might come shoot it here. It is just so beautiful with the colors.
Well, I bet it's beautiful.
It's beautiful everywhere.
I haven't been recently, but I bet the bridge on Electric Street. I bet the backdrop
I'm doing both of those actually because I hike both of those or urban walk,
whatever.
Cruise around with the doggy dog. Poor Nellie. She jumped out. We only take her in the low car now because she's like 14 and she's starting to get a little old. And she jumped out of the car last week and just like sprained her shoulders. And I got to pick her in and out of the car. But, we'll take her out and I walk those trails, so I think I'm going to go shoot something there.
There's so many pretty spaces in Manchester. People underestimate how many really, really scenic places we have here.
I have to tell you, because Tammy and I were out over the weekend. We did some door knocking. We did some deliveries, all that good stuff. And it's fascinating to go into these little neighborhoods where, you gave us some maps and I was up in an area that I hadn't really been to before. And there were all these little cul-de-sacs and all these it's just charming.
Dan and I were out last night, and one thing we learned is 7 o'clock, the lights get shut off on the world. I mean, the darkness. It was like suddenly we were driving, everything was fine. All of a sudden, it was like poof, dark, and I was like, well, 7 o'clock. That's the cutoff, apparently.
Yep.
I mean, it was literally 7 o'clock, and I couldn't find the house number, and I was like, okay, it's time to stop when I can't see the house number. We were in a car, so it wasn't terrible, but one thing I noticed yesterday, and particularly up on, Stewart Street, Forest Street, there's like this whole little neighborhood between Mast Road and Rockland. So many beautiful flower gardens. Great. Enough that Dan's like, look at that house. Look at that
I was definitely also sort of stealing with my eyes for the gardens.
And I'm assuming it's the COVID building thing. Seems like there's way more little patios with lights and decks than I recall.
So, for our viewers back home, I thought it was really cute. I saw this meme on Facebook where they were saying what the words were that people were Googling during the lockdown. And, different states had different things. I'm only going to remember the random ones. But, like, one of them was, like, meth lab, how to build a meth lab. One was, like, how to make yogurt or I don't know, whatever. But New Hampshire's was, like, do it yourself and how to build a porch. Yeah. And I was like, that is so
maybe
you built yours.
Well, we did. Yeah, see, I got motivated to do my patio. But I do think, I notice yards. That's part of my fun thing about knocking on doors is I get to go, oh, look how pretty. I want that in my yard.
Well, also it's a way to identify plants. Yeah. And I try and only plant perennials so that they come back, right? So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to spend all this money and all this effort and all this physical labor, right? Then I want it to come back and come back. So sometimes I get tricked where someone spends a lot of money on the annuals and you're like, oh, what is all this stuff that's blooming? And you're like, oh, yeah, I can't afford that.
A couple of the yards I was in last night made me feel like I lived in dirt hole, because I mean my property it was abandoned for so many years, so it was so overgrown, and people keep saying, "Oh, it looks so nice," but I'm like,
No, you've done a lot of work. We were back there. The patio you put out, it's great.
It'll be fun. It'll be great. I know it'll be that much prettier next year.
Well, that is the good part, right? It's sort of like when you invest in your future, like people can invest in us. You see the returns over time,
every time I put a perennial in that, I'm like, well, but next year it'll be that much more, and next year it'll be that much more.
Yeah.
So here in Manchester, let's see what's going on. Elizabeth Moreau bought a house in Ward 1. I kind of knew that a week or so ago.
I saw that.
She's got two young kids and one on the way, so they needed a bigger house. And she said after this whole shutdown, she definitely wanted a house with a pool.
Oh, wow.
She had a requirement, and I want a house with a pool, which I don't really blame her. I mean, God forbid we get locked down again in another summer. If you've got kids, you've got to have something for them to do.
Well, I mean, and I think we should talk about that. Why are we even saying those kinds of things? We should, in America, never have another lockdown.
I know.
That is just the reality of how a free society works. Because, I was thinking about it today. I saw that, if you look at the rulings that have come out of the courts.
Yeah, they're not really saying them.
Based on, everything that's been going on. As far as I can tell, and I don't think this is an exaggeration to frame it this way, basically, the courts are saying that, you know what? If there's a health emergency, regardless of what it is, and I think that we will be vindicated over time that actually our position was correct, that, this wasn't the response that we had wasn't the response we needed. But the courts have pretty much said, if there's a health emergency, we will suspend the Constitution of the United States of America. And that is pretty much what happened. So that's where we're at. So I would love to see, more freedom-focused people get in so that we can restore the balance between citizens and our government. Our government's supposed to work for us. Our government is not supposed to tell us we're not allowed to work.
Right. We, on the same thought process, keeping in mind that I have been out talking to voters in my ward, and I don't know. I don't get the feeling that people are shuttered into their homes. I mean, maybe there are, and I guess those are the people who don't answer their door. I mean, anybody who's ever knocked on doors at a political campaign, most of the people don't answer their doors anyways. But I'm finding that the people who do answer are eager to talk to people because I think they feel distanced.
I think they're lonely. I mean, we've been in, if people have been sort of following these recommendations more closely than some of us have, then, people must be feeling extremely isolated. It's not a healthy situation.
No.
It's not healthy for society. It's not healthy for humans to really not be able to have both physical and just emotional contact with other people. I've certainly, we were out on Sunday, and everyone we talked to seemed eager to talk. I didn't run into,
I didn't get a lot of, I didn't, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe we're just talking to, I don't know. Maybe it's just our voters aren't crazy. So, on the same note, trick-or-treating.
So I wanted to ask, just before we move on from Elizabeth, isn't it possible, even if you move, to serve out your term?
You have to be, the alderman and the school board member must live in the ward
they're in. So they're talking about either a special election, which would cost the city a fair amount, and my understanding is they've basically said we don't have the money.
Or they wait until next year.
Right. So,
I mean, I get that. I mean, Elizabeth had a good point that the people in Ward 6 should have representation, but that's what the aldermen at large are for. The world wouldn't end. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I mean, we also have that charter commission, education charter commission question that's going to be on the ballot. There's one right answer here, folks, and that is vote no.
Yep. And when you were down in in South Carolina, is it North Carolina? South Carolina. I always get confused. Brittany sat in, and that ballot, having that extra ballot that we didn't need to have this year and have it be a special election, that probably cost the taxpayers of Manchester like $25,000.
I mean, it probably cost us the cost of
we could have.
Elizabeth.
Here's a thought. They could have done a special election to elect the Ward 6 alderman and done the charter commission question then.
And so just to remind viewers back home, basically what this charter commission is first of all, it was illegally established, right? So we know that, and if you've been following the show for a long time, you'll recall that they what would it even be, like illegally mandated, right? So they put together this commission. They didn't allow people to actually get on the ballot in the right way.
There was definitely issues.
There was a lawsuit. The lawsuit sort of said, well, we don't know, we're going to let it go forward, but you probably have a point.
Yeah.
That's sort of plodding along in the courts. In the meanwhile, everyone was just like, so what we'll do is we'll circumvent, and we'll just go to the aldermen, and we'll have them put the question on the ballot.
Correct.
For the school board. So now we have this question that's coming out, and the bottom line of the issue is, do you want to give the school board of Manchester the right to increase your property taxes willy-nilly, however they want, because it would move it out from under the tax cap that we currently have. So currently with the tax cap, it means that, as we know, low spending results in low taxes.
Right.
And so you want those two things to go hand in hand. And there's this real move to try and increase the spending to circumvent the tax cap. And we're talking about, it's going to be thousands of dollars that they're coming for. And please remember, the school enrollment has gone down.
700 students this year alone.
I mean, I think one number I saw was almost 30%.
Yeah, but
right?
I'm saying literally just from the COVID shutdown, 700 students in the Manchester School District simply did not re-enroll this year. So our normal trend is going down. And then there's this pocket of more going down. So like the spending goes like this, and it's bad.
It's
so vote no.
Vote no.
Definitely vote no. I saw in the paper last week that, and I got to give the police chief credit for doing this. He put a survey out about Halloween. And good on him, because, who is he to say we do X? Maybe that's not what people want. But he was mostly concerned about, like, do parents want it to be in the afternoon and then into the evening, or just in the evening? Because, what do I know? I like surveys. Basically, the majority of people came back and said, no, we'd like it from 6 to 8 at night. Halloween's a nighttime thing. The people who have little kids, first of all, little kids aren't going to die if they go out in the dark. It's not.
No, it's
6 o'clock is still light.
Is that sort of like creepy,
so they hadn't actually said that Manchester would, say there was trick-or-treating. Although the governor did say, I'm not going to prohibit trick-or-treating.
I'm sorry, but do we live in America where the police chief of a small town is allowed to cancel Halloween?
And I think...
I don't know. Maybe we should go back to, like, everyone just do what you want. If you want to go trick-or-treating, go trick-or-treating. If you don't want to go trick-or-treating, don't go. It's not that hard,
I think the police got involved when they tried to, like, streamline it into hours, because there are kids in not so much anymore, because there aren't as many trick-or-treaters as there used to be. But
they destroyed a very fun tradition.
But,
well done.
I think parents do it too. I think parents just don't let their kids do anything anymore. But
well, yes, but there's an entire book about that.
The police would set certain hours, which used to be in the daytime in Manchester. But thank you, Phil Grazza, for getting it moved back to Halloween night. But I think the reason they would set certain hours is so that there weren't kids, that people could be aware that there's going to be kids in and out of the street, whatever. But now we've got all this discussion about there are some towns waiting for guidelines. And I thought, for goodness sakes, do you really need the government to give you guidelines on whether or not you want to hand out candy to little kids in costumes, or whether or not you as a parent want to let your kid go to the door and get candy in their costume? If you're worried about it as a parent, don't go trick-or-treating. If you're worried about it as a homeowner, do what many, many people do every Halloween. Don't put your light on, close your door, and don't hand out candy. My house, we have a big light-up dragon. We're giving out candy. I'm not afraid of handing a little kid. I'm not going to catch COVID that way from handing some little kid. If I'm really worried about it, I'll use hand sanitizer. Like, just think, you don't have to wait for the government all the time to tell you everything.
But, and we can kind of pretend this even relates to COVID, but based on, the years I've lived in Manchester, I've just seen this sort of trend towards control on all things, including this, right? For years, they moved Halloween to different days. Yeah. It wasn't on the day it's on. It's like, folks, I think what we have is a trend in the wrong direction, and what we need to trend back towards is individual liberty and freedom and choice. If you want to do something, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Stop asking the government what you're allowed to do. That's not how free people operate.
Speaking on other things that the government has said you can't do, and this is for a different reason, and I wanted to clarify because I did knock on one person's door and they had it misunderstood. The governor has said no open fires, but that means like no bonfires, because we're in a drought situation, and they're very concerned about, wildfires. I mean, there was a fire on an island, a brush fire on an island in Concord. And I was like, that's got to be homeless people. But still, what happens is these fires start and then they can easily get out of control. But when they say no open fires, it explicitly did not mean backyard, fire pit type things. This was like, don't build that pile of pallets and burn it right now. It's not the best thing to do. And sadly, I guess sometimes we do have to have the government remind us, don't be stupid. Now, here in Manchester, of course, because they wanted to get money for things, you're supposed to have a permit to have that little backyard fire pit or a chimney or whatever. I'd love to see somebody do a right to know request and see how many fire calls are actually made due to actual outbreaks in backyard fires, because I'm going to guess it's like none. But they charge you $50 a year for this. They claim it's a service. It's not. It's a nuisance. I don't think most people have that $50 permit. But anyways, just be careful with your fires. If you're going to have a backyard fire, I mean, it is a good idea to have a spark arrestor. Like if you have a chimney, it's like a mesh so that the stuff doesn't go up.
People just exercise personal responsibility and common sense. Being human isn't that hard. No. If you're going to make a fire and it's dry, be responsible about it.
I don't understand it. I'm like, wow, do people actually have a fire without some sort of...
what happens is the more this coddling happens,
people are
the less responsibility you instill. Right. It is part of the process. Once you tell people they're a victim for everything, that they can't think for themselves,
then they stop.
That they are a, slave to the government, then they all start to go, Daddy, can I? Mommy, can I? Nanny state, what? Yep. Instead of going, what can I do? How do I function in the world as a actualized human being making my own personal choices that are good choices? Sorry,
no, I'm okay. I got all these random topics written down. I totally was ill prepared today. So today is Tuesday, the 29th. Tonight is the first presidential debate.
Oh my goodness, what is that going to be like? I don't typically watch these, but I think I might.
We watch them sometimes, but we usually watch like the recap. I mean, it depends on when they are. Yeah.
I think it's going to be really
interesting.
I mean, yes, it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting to see what they just if the conversation of Trump's Supreme Court nominee comes into the debate, because this is an interesting, and this is like civics. This is what people don't realize. Like you always have like the political parties running there, but there is certain stuff. So the president nominates Supreme Court justices. That's just how it works, and then the Senate. Not the House. So when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or whatever her name is stands there next to Chuck Schumer talking about Supreme Court nominations,
Nonsense.
I have no idea because she's not even in the U.S. Senate. That was placating. That was pandering, complete pandering. But anyways, the Senate must act on the president's nominee. That's just the way it works.
So one of the things I saw in sort of social media, and I guess it's probably on mainstream, except once again, watch our show, but switch off the TV the rest of the time. But is, that people are saying, how dare he do this? He needs to wait, whatever. And I'm like, I went back and looked, and there are a lot, including Obama, appointed a Supreme Court justice in an election
or
year.
Nominated.
Right.
He nominated, and Jeanne Shaheen, our Senator Jeanne Shaheen, thought it was absolutely absurd that the Senate would not take a vote on Obama's nominee. Now, here's the kicker. And then Steve Valencourt would always say, elections have consequences. We have a Republican president and a Republican majority Senate. When Obama was president, he had a Democrat president and a Republican majority Senate. The reality is, whether some people like it or not, when you have the president and the Senate, guess what?
It's going to happen.
Your nominees go faster. They get through the process faster. This is what politics is all about, and elections have consequences. And I was reminded this morning of something very interesting. Even if on January 20th, before let's say Donald Trump does not win the election, which I don't think is going to happen. But if he doesn't win the election and Joe Biden from his cellar is going to be the president, before Joe Biden is sworn in on January 20th, Donald Trump can still nominate a Supreme Court justice, and the Senate must act on it. So the nomination of Amy, I always get her name wrong, Amy Amy. Let's just go with Amy. She is socially conservative, but she's fair. I mean, all of the critics have said she has a good head on her shoulders. She's great.
I mean, she clerked for Scalia. Yep. I liked Scalia a lot. He was a constructionist, so he would say, as it should be, I practice law on two continents. I'm allowed to say these things. I have always been shocked by the interpretation that the Constitution is a living document.
It's not. It's words on paper. It's hard fast.
Because, as a lawyer, the one thing we're taught is if you draft a contract, you can only look at the contract
in front of you
to say this is what our intent was. The contract is supposed to reflect our intentions accurately, right? So when we went to this non-logic, irrationality of, this is a living document, basically what you're saying is that we have a contract, but I can actually just say, I know we said that, but really what we mean now is the exact literal opposite, including, decisions that I have read that actually say things like, including but not limited to now means limited to,
right?
Including, it's gotten to the stage where it's absurd. So what I'm excited about with her is that she is someone in Scalia's sort of vein of thinking that believes we should look at the Constitution as written, and we should. And then if there's anything in there that we don't like, we as a country should amend that
to make it clearer,
so that we all, once again, agree on the plain reading of the words that are written, that people are telling us this is what binds us as a society together. Because if we're saying we're bound by a document that doesn't
actually mean anything.
That doesn't mean what it says it means, or that we can interpret to mean whatever we want, we end up with the world the way it currly is. So I'm excited about it.
I am too, and I was kind of like taken aback because we're females. I've always been a strong female. I think I have no problem. I think women are afforded the opportunities to do whatever they want. Whether people make choices that hinder those opportunities is their own business. If you. But some of the pushback on her from the left, I thought, I don't understand which things are you for and which things are you against? Because they're going after her because she's a working woman. So she's a professional woman.
Yes, she's a working mom. Now she can't do it. No one has ever asked in a Supreme Court hearing if the father could manage his workload.
And I thought that the left believed in women working. So I'm like, okay, so which is it? She can work or she can't work. She can't be a mom and a professional. So there was that. Then I saw something, and I saw it in multiple veins on subject matter. And if this is where the Democrats want to go, please, by all means, do it. Apparently she has 7 children. I would never have 7 children. I have a dog and a cat. That's all I can handle. I believe some of them are adopted.
Yes, 2 are adopted.
And they are darker skinned than she is. Who cares, right? Oh no. I've seen things saying now that it is inappropriate for lighter skinned people to adopt darker skinned people. And I thought, wait a minute. I thought it didn't matter what color people's skin was. Why is anybody in 2020 still looking at the color of somebody's skin and making decisions based on it?
You know what genuinely appalls me about the left is the hypocrisy that they approach things with. It's like they assume we can't remember from day to day what is happening. So something like today it's this, and then tomorrow it's the rank opposite. And it's just like, hey guys, can we at least, one of the things I really enjoy about the philosophy of liberty is the fact that it's very consistent. Like once you internalize the sort of thinking, which is free people should be able to make their own choices. It should, whether they're good or bad, the way the system should be set up is if you make a bad choice, we shouldn't reward you for the bad choices, which is the system we currently have. We should actually say, you know what, you need to get your act together. Yep. And so, it's the same with this appointment. I see it all the time. I'm currently getting attacked, for so many things where I'm just like,
isn't this
what are you even talking about?
Yeah. I'm only getting attacked so far that I can see because apparently I talk to people. I guess that's now a bad thing. I don't know. The people I'm talking to don't seem to mind talking to me.
No. So, I just think, it's may we live in interesting times. This election is coming up. People should please, if you are going to vote absentee, make sure you are requesting your ballot with good time to go. There's probably going to be, I know they're just sending
out, the city of Manchester sent out almost 9,000 absentee ballots. That's the first batch, and then they'll send them out daily. That's a lot of people who voted. The city's never sent out that much, and it was always good to talk to the city clerk because I know that they're doing it efficiently and carefully, and they're not just willy-nilly mailing out ballots. If you're by the time
but they are asking if they can, start to process it earlier.
Because,
so that'll be interesting. To see.
If you by the time you read this, if you have any questions about Republican candidates and don't know who they are in your district, you can go to ManchesterGOP.com and there'll be a tab at the top for 2020 candidates. Contact information and whatnot for all the candidates representing Manchester from the Republican Party. That's all we have time for this week. It goes so fast. Enjoy the weather. Get out there and, stay outdoors while we can. And we'll be back next week. Bye.
Take care.